Hello guys, good evening everyone. Can you let me know if I'm audible and if my screen is visible? Yeah, okay, great. Let's wait for people to join and we'll start with the class in 2 minutes, okay? Yeah, let's wait for all the people to join. So guys, till then what we can do is we can talk about the agenda for today. So what all things we'll be covering today, we can talk about that. Right, so let's do it. So for today, we will be talking about again the fundamentals. So we'll be talking about some basic fundamentals again, and then we'll move to the basics of HTML. So yeah, we'll also start with the very basics of HTML and how HTML works. We'll also talk about that. And yeah, let's proceed. Let's talk about what we need to do for today. So yeah, guys, the first thing which we need to talk about is something known as, you can say, DOM. So we'll first talk about the procedure, right? So we know that how the browser works, right? What all processes are involved when you enter a URL, what exactly happens. But there are some more things which you need to know. Okay, so there are some points which we skipped, so we will know them. So basically we'll get to know the exact process, that what exactly happens before you are able to see the website exactly on the screen. Okay, so we'll talk about that. And in it, we also need to talk about something known as DOM, right? Some of you might know it, what it is. We'll talk about it again, that what DOM is. Then we'll talk about something known as CSZOM. Okay, so we'll talk about what this is. And then we'll talk about something known as render tree. Okay, so what a render tree is, we'll look into a practical, that how exactly a website is displayed to you, right? We'll look into the practical, that what are the steps which we do to be able to visit the website or to be able to see the website directly on our screen. So what are the background steps involved in it? Very important to understand that. So we'll do that. And after understanding the basic render tree, what it is, how it works, and what is the relation of the render tree with DOM and CSOM, then we'll move to something known as the curriculum. So we'll talk about the basic curriculum of HTML. So what all things we'll be studying in HTML, we'll talk about the topics. So topics to cover, we'll talk about them. We'll talk about all the topics that we'll be covering in HTML. And then we'll start with the very basics of HTML. And then at the end, we'll start with the basics of HTML. We'll talk about very, you can say, minimalistic basics. We'll talk about the boilerplate and what all things are included in the boilerplate. Yeah, so that's what we will talk about for today. Sure, guys. I think we're good to go. Yes. So it is 8:01 and we can get started with it. Now, guys, so let's proceed at the bottom and let's continue with our first topic, which is DOM. But before understanding DOM, guys, we need to understand one more thing. Or let's do one thing. Let's first talk about DOM, CSOM, and render tree, and then we'll talk about the rest of the stuff. So let's first talk about a DOM. So what is a DOM, guys? DOM's full form basically means document object model. Okay. So the full form of DOM is document object model. Okay. So the full form of the DOM is document object model, and we can say similarly we have something known as CSOM. Okay, so we also have CSZOM. So you understand one thing and the other would be very clear to you. So first let's talk about DOM. So the full form of the DOM is document object model. And what it does is basically it is used for creating parent-child relation in HTML elements. Okay, so HTML, what it is used for? So it is used for creating parent-child relation in HTML. Now, if we said that we are using a parent-child relation, or if we need to create that, first we need to basically understand why exactly we require a parent-child relation. So let's do that. And what exactly do we mean by a parent-child relation in HTML? So guys, in HTML, what we see is basically this sort of structure. Okay, you have, let's say, you have something like this. This is the tree structure or the parent-child relation we are talking about. You have an element. Inside it, you might have some bunch of elements. Inside that particular element, you might have some other elements inside it. So yeah, this is what is known as a tree structure. So DOM is actually responsible for generating or constructing this tree structure, or also known as parent-child relation. Okay, also known as parent-child relation. Now, how can we say it is a parent-child relation? So if you can see, we can do a comparison. We can say if this is a parent, then this is a child. So this will be child 1 and this will be child 2. Now, if we consider, or if we view in terms of this, then this is the parent and these are its children, right? Right. This is how it is happening. So if we are considering, or if we are comparing in consideration to this element, then we'll compare the bottom ones just next below them. Right. That is how we can see we are having multiple parent and child relations. So this is what exactly a DOM is able to construct. So what is DOM? Why is it required? DOM is a document object model. It is responsible for creating this tree structure, or also known as parent-child relation. Okay. Now, what is it used for? Why are we creating this parent-child relation? So basically, before you can see your website on the screen, you require something known as a DOM construction, or a parent-child relation construction. Why is it required? The reason being, whenever you get, or whenever you have this parent-child relation with you, it becomes very easy for you to construct or basically draw the output. So first, what exactly happens when the website requests for, you can say, when you request for a particular website, when you get the data, the first thing is done is DOM creation. So when you get the HTML, the first thing which is constructed is DOM. Okay. Now in the DOM, what exactly happens? Let's say you have a container. Okay, this is a container. Let me just give you an example. So let's say this is a container. Okay. Now in that container, you have, let's say, a card. Okay. And you have, let's say, you can say a article. Okay. Now article can have a heading inside it, and a article can have, let's say, with a heading, you can also have with it, let's say, a paragraph. Okay, paragraph. So yeah, this is how you can see a parent-child relation. So if you have a page, the page can have a very big container. Now in that container, you can see it has two things. So the first thing it has is a card. So the first thing it has is a card. And now inside that card, let's say you just have a heading. So what do you have? You have a card. Inside that card, you have a heading. After that, just next to the card, you have an article. So next to the card, you have an article. Inside that article, you have a heading. And next to the heading, you have a paragraph. Are you able to see the structuring? Are you able to understand what exactly we are able to do with the help of this parent-child relationship? With the help of this parent-child relationship, you're easily able to understand that how exactly the elements are going to be placed in your HTML, right? How they will be placed, how the arrangement would happen. I can consider, or I can easily understand that I would have a container. Inside that container, I would have two things. I would have a card and an article. Now inside the first card, I'll have a heading inside it. Inside the article, I would have a heading and a paragraph. So very easy to visualize. Okay. Yeah. So very easy to visualize. And this is the reason that you can say, browser requires a DOM construction so that it can visualize that how exactly the placement of the element needs to be. And yeah, guys, we will also study about this DOM in JavaScript. Okay, so JS is also known as, or you can say it is also known as all about DOM. Okay, so JS is also respectively known as all about DOM. Why is that? Because whatever you do in JavaScript, it is actually related to changing or updating something in the DOM. And DOM is actually able to do that very easily. So let's say that with JavaScript, you want to change something. Let's say in the heading, you want to make some changes. Let's say it was written something else. I want to update it to write something else inside. Can I do that? Yes. But before doing that, I first need to know its position, right? I first need to know that where exactly it is present in the tree. So DOM actually helps you to basically understand that where in the page, where you would find that particular element. So JavaScript uses a lot of times DOM to find a particular element and then do the certain updates you want to in that element. Okay, so in JS, we'll be talking in depth about DOM. Okay, so yes, we'll again be covering it, but I think that now you know the basic idea about what a DOM is and what exactly it is capable of doing. Yes or no, guys? Yeah? Are you able to understand what a DOM is used for? Okay, great. Now let's proceed. So now we know what the DOM is capable of doing. Now let's talk about what is CSOM. And guys, CSOM is actually very similar to the DOM. Okay, CSOM has a lot of similarities to DOM. So CSOM is actually the same as DOM. So it is also used for creating a tree-based structure. But this time it is used for creating tree-based structure for CSS. Okay, this time the tree-based structure you are creating is for CSS. So you are creating a cascading style sheet object model. Okay, so you are creating again a tree structure, again a parent child relationship, but this time you are creating it for what? You are creating it for CSS. Yes, guys, DOM is only for HTML. Okay, so the tree like structure which you see here, it is only created for HTML. Similar to that, you have for CSS, you have CSDOM, which is responsible for creating a tree like structure parent child relationship for child, or you can say CSS. Now guys, what will this be able to do, or what will this help me in? It will help me in visualizing that how exactly the styles I need to apply to different elements. Okay, so what it will be is again the same thing. It will look again the same way. So I can just create, or I can just use the example I used previously. Okay, so I'll use the example which I showed you previously. I have two elements. This is my container, right? On the left, I have a card, and on the right, I have a article. In the article, I have a heading, and next to the heading, I have, let's say, a paragraph. So this is a para, and this is a heading. Okay, this is what I know. And on the left side in the card, I have just a heading. Okay. Remember, these two headings are different. It's just that they're both headings, so I've named them the same. Okay. Yeah. So now what we need to understand is how exactly does a CSOM work? Because this is what a HTML DOM looks like. What is CSOM doing? What CSOM is capable of doing is basically it will draw the same sort of structure, not exactly the same sort of structure, but rather than containing the HTML, it would contain the CSS. So basically it would contain something known as key value pairs. Okay, it will contain something known as key value pairs. What is key? What is value? Key means what property in CSS for an element do you want to update? Let's say that for the container, I want every text to have a color, right? Every text to have a color of blue, right? So this is a key and this is a property for that key, right? This is a key and this is the property for that key. So yeah, guys, what does a CSOM contain? It contains the list of the key and properties or key or value pairs for all the elements. So it will contain like a documentation, like a document, a list of all the CSS properties you are applying to a particular element, then a list of properties you are applying to a particular element, and so on. So this way it can actually figure out that on which element what CSS styles to apply, right? It can figure out that at which, you can say, parent or child relation, what different styles am I applying, right? That is what exactly CSOM is able to create. And now remember, it is just a tree structure created for CSS. Got it? That is the difference in DOM and a CSOM. DOM is used for HTML for creating a tree-like structure from the HTML. CSOM is used for CSS for creating a tree-like structure for CSOM or CSS. Got it? Yes, guys. Then we'll proceed. Guys, these structures, right, you don't have to create them. This is something which your browser does. Okay, that is not what you need to worry about. This is something your browser does automatically. It's just some, you can say, topics which you need to know about to basically understand how your browser works, how you are exactly able to see your website, or you can say render your website to the screen. Okay, that is why we are teaching this to you guys. It's not like you need to worry about it and how it is created. You don't need to, because it is all automatically created by your browsers. But yes, you should have a basic understanding of how this is done or how this happens. Okay, it will be a little bit more clear when we see example. So yes, guys, we'll also see an example of it, a very clean example that how exactly these things happen. Okay. Yo. Now, we know about what is a DOM, what is a CSOM. Now, what is a render tree, guys? Let's talk about it. So a render tree. Now, what is a render tree? Render tree is basically when we combine the DOM and CSOM, that is known as a render tree. And that's it. Okay, nothing new. This is what you know. Now, guys, when you get your HTML file, right, it constructs, or your browser constructs something known as a DOM. When it gets the CSS file, then it constructs something known as CSOM. But now, guys, that you can say DOM and CSOM is constructed, but your website can't be displayed yet. Why? Because first it needs to combine both of them. Okay, what it needs to do is basically it needs to combine both of them, and it needs to create a single tree out of it. So it will combine, you can say, the CSOM and you can say the DOM. So it will combine the DOM which you have here, right? Whatever tree structure which you have here, it will combine it with the CSOM, right? And then by merging both of them, it will create a common render tree. Okay. Now, will the render tree have something different? No. It will just have both HTML with addition to CSS. So let's say you have this element, right? Let's say this is a heading. Then with this heading, you would also have the different CSS properties specified for that heading. Now you have your HTML, you have your CSS, and it means now you're ready to show your page to, or you can say in the browser, to the user. And that's why now after creating a render tree, you're ready to display the website or the page to the user onto your display. And now it is good enough to display the website to the user. Okay, this is how the process is happening. Okay, so you merge both the trees and you get a render tree. Now, this merging also happens automatically, guys. You don't need to worry about it, how it happens. You just need to know the logic behind it and what exactly render tree is made of. It is made of DOM plus the CSOM. And we know what both of them are. Now, let's proceed. So now after creating this DOM and CSOM, now we can talk about, guys. Now we know all the basics. Now we know all the basics about how exactly a tree can be created, or basically how the website is rendered. Okay, now we can combine all the knowledge which we have gathered till now from the fundamentals, and we can get into the steps in how exactly a website is displayed onto the screen. So let's do that. So the first thing which you do is, you can say, enter URL in browser. Okay, that's the first step. So you have a browser and you have a search bar in it, right? And in this search bar, you enter whatever URL you want to visit. Now you hit enter. So you hit a enter button, right? And it goes to, or basically a request is made. Okay, so what happens in this arrow? Let me just make it a little bit big. So a request is made. Okay, request is made. Okay, now this request is first going to go to our DNS. We talked about it, that the first thing we need is the IP address of the, you can say, server for the website, right? Whichever website you want to visit, we need an IP address for that. So it will go to DNS, right? So DNS will give us what? It will give us IP address. Okay, it will give us IP address of web server. Okay, website server. That is what we get. Now we got the IP address of the server. Now after getting the IP address, now we have all the information we require to connect to the server. So now we can connect to the server. So now you can say connection to server is made. Okay, server is made. So now we are connected to the server. Now after connecting to the server, now the server will check for different things. Okay, now whenever you made this request, with this request there are a bunch of things sent. Now you don't need to worry about them for now, but they actually include some, you can say, different details, right? Different informations, that who is the user who is trying to visit the website, does the user have particular authorization to visit the website, right? Is he a malicious user? These are all things done at the server automatically to check if I should send him the website details or not. Now after checking, so after server doing that thing, now it sends back to the user the data. Okay, so basically what it sends back is the data. And guys, remember, whenever the website sends you the required data, it always first sends you, you can say always sends you HTML. Okay, remember, whenever you request for a website, the first thing you will always get, no matter which website it is, it will always be a single HTML page. Okay, you will always get a single HTML page. Now in the browser, so you have the browser. In the browser, you receive the HTML page. So now you have received the HTML page. Now what you can see a browser will do is, it will go through each and every line of your HTML page. Okay, now you have received the first HTML page. Now it will read through each and every line of the HTML page. So what will happen? Let me just write it down because it is an important step, because this is how you get the rest of the things, because you have only got your HTML till now. Now browser reads through each line of code in HTML and finds additional resources to load. Okay, so it will also find additional resources to load. That is what it is doing. Okay, so what it is doing, it is actually, till now in the browser you only have HTML. Now after getting that HTML, your browser reads through each and every line of that HTML and files the rest of the resources which it needs to load. And what are the rest of the resources? It can be CSS. So in your HTML, you specify that which CSS file you want, right? So that's why it will contain a CSS link, that this website or this CSS file I need to import. So it will import that file, right? It checks that is it required in the HTML. If it is, then it will import it. If it requires any images, right? If you have mentioned any images you want to display in the page, it will import that. If you have mentioned any videos, it will import that, right? If you have mentioned any JavaScript files, so whatever files you have mentioned inside it, it will import one by one. And guys, each and every import which it makes, right? Each and every file which it imports, for each one of them, there is a single request made. Okay. So every resource requires a new request. Okay. Remember? So every resource you load, every file you load requires an individual request to be made. So first you get the HTML, then after that, one by one, it starts requesting for the rest of the stuff according to the HTML. Now, when you get all the resources, now it is ready to generate. Okay, now you have HTML, now you have CSS, now it is ready to generate DOM and CSOM. So now it generates, and then it generates render tree. Okay. So now it generates DOM and CSOM. Now it has everything. It has all the resources, whatever needs to be displayed. Now you're ready to generate a DOM, CSOM, and a render tree out of it. So generates DOM, CSOM, render tree. And after doing this, now you're at a final stage. Now you have your render tree, and now you're ready to display it to the user. So now website can be rendered. So the logical term for it is rendered to the user. Okay. Or you can say otherwise display. So displayed to the user. And this is the whole process, guys. You can see this is how much work your, you can say, operating system, whatsoever it is, your mobile, your PC, wherever, your tablet, whatsoever you're viewing your website in. This is how much work it does in just milliseconds in the background. Okay. This is how much work it is doing in milliseconds in the background to show you the website exactly the way it is. So you can understand JavaScript is actually very fast because your browser is built in JavaScript. Okay. So yes, it is very fast, guys. And you can see this is how much work it does. I think it is very clear now how exactly your browsers are able to display you your website. Yes or no, guys? We'll see an example as well, but is it clear? Okay, great. Now, let's proceed. Let's see an example and then we can continue. Okay. Now, guys, please don't annotate. Yep, let's proceed. So let's see an example of it before proceeding. So we can just mark that we are done with it. And let's just mark it at the top as well in the topics that we have completed with DOM, CSOM, right? And render tree. We know what all of these mean and how they work, right? So yes, we have talked about our first 3 topics. And now we can basically see an example of it. Now, let's go at the bottom. And yes, now let's look into example. So I'm going into my browser. What I'll do is I'll just open DevTown. Okay. So DevTown is the simplest way. I can just show you, right, what exactly we are looking into. So you can see it was not, you can see it was just milliseconds to load this amount of data. You can see a lot of data is there on this single website, right? So yes. So what we can do is very simple. We can right click on this page. Right. What you need to do is you need to open something known as developer tools. What are developer tools? Developer tools are basically made and are present in every single browser, whatsoever you're using. You're using Opera Mini, it will be present. You're using Opera, you're using Firefox, you're using Edge, whatever you're using, you will have something known as developer tools. Now, developer tools are created so that web developers like us can easily understand how a website is created. Okay. And they can debug their code. They can find errors if there are any, right? So that is the reason they included something known as developer tools into websites. How to access them? Very simple. Right click on your page and at the bottom, you will see inspect. Okay. The time you click on inspect, this is what you get. Okay. On the right side, you see 2 things. At the top, you can see this is your HTML. How I can figure out that is HTML? You can see it is written HTML. It means this is your HTML section. Now don't worry about what this is. Okay, but this is your HTML section. And at the bottom, you can see this is your CSS section. Okay, this is showing the different properties being applied, like font family, like color, like font size, like line height. So you don't need to worry about the properties. We are just looking into the inspect tool. Okay. Now, the first amazing thing is this is the DOM, guys. This is nothing but your DOM. And at the bottom, which you're seeing here, this is nothing but your CSOM. And yeah, guys, this is basically a combination of render tree. And when we refresh, right, and when we get the page, you can see it was loading. Both of them were loading. So the CSOM and the DOM were getting generated, and then they are being displayed. Now, how exactly can I see that this is a DOM? If you can see, you have a parent-child relation. You can see I have a body, right? Body is a parent. Now, if I open it, inside my body, I have a div, I have another div, I have another div, I have iframe. Inside my div, I have some another sections which exist inside it. So you can see it is a parent-child relation, right? So yes, this is something known as a DOM. So this is the DOM generated. And if you see, or if you click on any of them, right? No need to worry about what a div is, what it is. Just click on any of the elements. Let's say I click on this div. At the bottom, you can see the styles change. So it is basically showing that to this div, what different elements or properties you are applying. You can see these are the different styles being applied to it. Display, flex, max, width, right? These are the different properties. If you select any other div, let's say I select this div, you can see the styles change. These are the styles being applied to it. So yeah, guys, this is how you can figure out the DOM and CSOM and see different properties being applied to it. Now, what we are actually interested in doing for now is seeing that how can we check that what are the files imported by us. So what are the requests made? You can do it with the help of something known as a networks tab. So in this developer tools, at the top, you can see, I can see elements, consoles, and you can see recorder. Let me just close it now. I can see this, but I can nowhere see networks tab. So basically there are multiple options. It is just able to show me 3 options. I can see more by clicking on this button. Okay, click on this arrow and I can see the multiple options, the rest of the options. Go to the network tab because that is what we want to visit. And guys, you can see this is the list of all the requests your browser made. Okay, this contains a list of all the requests, guys. Whatever requests your browser made to load this single page. And it includes a hell lot of things, guys. But to record it properly, what we can do is first we can clear this page. Okay, we want to see the fresh one. We want to see when we refresh the page. So to make a proper record, what we can do at the top, you can see below this red or beside this red button, you have this cross button. If you click it, it will clear this whole request section. So you click on it and you can see the request section is, you can see free. Now, if you refresh the page, it will show you all the list of new requests made at the refresh. You can see it made so many requests and it is still making the requests at the bottom. Yes, all the requests have been made. And if we scroll at the bottom, new and new requests will be made according to whatever it needs to display. Okay, now let's check. I told you that the first request which you make will always be HTML. So is it? Let's see. So if you are at the bottom, just scroll at the top and you see this blue button. You can see it shows www.devtown.in. Click on it and go to the header section. So when you click on it, it will open this tab. Go to the header section. Now, the first thing to see, you can actually get to know the server's IP address. Okay, you can get to know that what is the IP address of the DevTown server, where you can see this is your remote address, guys. This is the remote address of the server. This is what? This is actually from where you got this devtown.in file. So basically in the header section, it shows you different informations about what all things you got, how you got it, right? Different details. Okay. So the request URL. So the request which we made was to so-and-so URL. 200 is basically a status. 200 is a status, which means that whatever you wanted to search for, whatever request you made, it was successful. Okay, green 200 means okay, it is successful. And it shows you the, you can say IP address from where you made the request. Now, that's some additional stuff. We'll talk about it later, but we are interested in seeing that was this actually HTML. So how can I see it? I can see it in something known as response, guys. So I can go to response, and yes, guys, I can see it is pure HTML, nothing else but a HTML. You can see doc type HTML scripts, whatever it is, right? All the HTML. So this was the first request which was made. And after going through each and every line, then the rest of the requests for rest of the things were made. The rest of the things can be, you can see JavaScript, or you can see it was an image, or it can be logos, or it can be CSS files, whatsoever it needs to be. It can be a text file, whatever it needs to be, right? No, guys, for every single resource, there always needs to be a different request, guys. You can't make a single request for a single file. There is a reason behind it, guys. Okay. There is a reason behind it. It needs to be in a sequential manner. Whenever, if you're loading all the things together, it will get heavier and heavier. Let me just show you. The total, you can see this is how much data you loaded, right? If I just close this section, at the bottom, you can see the total amount of size. So all these files, whatever you loaded, the size of the total files is 4.5 MBs, guys. So the data transferred to you, right, was 4.5 MBs of data transfer and 23 MBs of resources. So basically all the images and whatever additional resources you got, it was 23 MBs. So you can see the total is actually huge. And if you try to load all of this in a single go, it will take a lot of time. And if it takes a lot of time, it will take a lot of time for the website to load. If it takes a lot of time for the website to load, the user feels like, okay, the website is slow, or maybe he might exit the website, right? So there can be scenarios, and that's why it needs to be this way. Yes, guys, all these files are actually stored in your browser. Okay. So wherever your browser was installed, so whenever you installed this browser, it creates a particular folder. Now in that folder, there it stores these temporary files. These are all temporary files, guys. Remember, temporary. When you refresh the page, all of these files are deleted. Some of them are stored for caching, but the rest of them are deleted. And yes, this is what happens whenever you visit a new page. Okay, now let's just skip all of this and let's go to whatever we were talking about. So yes, we got the HTML. Now guys, if you really want to see that how exactly your page would look like without anything else but just HTML, you can go to preview. And in the preview, this is how simple your page would look without any HTML, any, you can say JavaScript, anything else. Okay, this is how your basic page would look like with just the data and icons and whatever it is and nothing else. So yeah, guys, it's very important for the rest of the things to load. And now when it loads the rest of the things, then it paints something known as the DOM or shows you the website. Okay. Yeah. So this is all what happens. Okay. Yep. Got it. Got it. How you can check the networks tab and figure out that what was the first request made, what all data you received. You can also look into other files. You can see this is a JavaScript file, right? There will be a lot of JavaScript files because this is a project, or this is basically, I guess, made with React, right? Okay. No, it is not made with React. My bad. But yes, it would include a lot of JavaScript. Yep. Okay. Great. Is it clear, guys? Till now, is it clear? Then we'll proceed. Okay, great. Now let's move to the bottom. Okay, now we know about the full procedure of basically showing a website to the user or loading or rendering the website onto the browser screen. Now, guys, skip those sections. Okay, those are unnecessary things for you to know about for now. If you're really curious, search them on your own for now. We'll talk about these things. These are not required for, you can say, for now or for this purpose at this point of time, whatever we are, you can say, learning. So that's why I'll skip those for now. Now, let's proceed and let's talk about the rest of it. Now, let's talk about the topics which we'll be covering in the certain, you can say, time period. Okay. So these are basically the topics which we'll be covering in HTML. So now we are starting with the basics of HTML. Basics, or you can say just HTML, because it's not just basics, which we'll be talking about all the things which we'll be covering in HTML. Okay. So in HTML, the first thing we'll talk about is the very basics. And in the basics, the first thing which we'll talk about is something known as what is HTML. What is HTML? The second thing which we'll talk about is something known as basic tags. The third thing which we'll talk about is something known as DOM. Okay, DOM we'll talk about again, because till now we will have the basic knowledge of how HTML looks. Then we'll be very much, you can say, easy for us to understand that how exactly a DOM will look, because we saw an empty example. Then we'll be able to see a proper example with the different, you can say, HTML elements inside it. Then the second thing which we'll do is we'll dive deeper. Okay, we'll dive deeper into the more complex you can say concepts. So we'll talk about something known as forms. What are forms? Right. We'll talk about something known as layouts. We'll also talk about layouts. We'll also talk about something known as tables. So how to create tables, how to create forms. We'll also talk about, I missed a topic which is known as attributes. So we'll talk about what are attributes. We'll also talk about what are tags, right? These are some small topics which we'll talk about when we talk about all these topics, right? And after that, we'll move at the bottom and we'll talk about accessibility. Okay. So how to make your website more accessible to everyone, right? How to increase the accessibility of your website. We'll talk about that. Okay. So what is web accessibility? We'll talk about that. Why is it important? We'll talk about that. So we can just say a question mark, then that basically what is accessibility? Why is accessibility? So why we require it and how? So how do we make our websites accessible? We'll also talk about something known as semantic tags, right? We'll also talk about semantic tags. And yeah, guys, that is it. This is all the things we'll be talking about. Now in the layouts, there are two things. There are two main ways of creating layouts. One of them is something known as flex boxes. One of them is something known as grids. Okay. So the layouts which we are talking about, this is basically a part of CSS, not you can say specifically part of, you can say HTML, but we'll still understand that how exactly layouts are important and how we can create it. Okay. Yeah. So these are all the topics which we'll be covering in, you can say, upcoming days. Not just today, we'll be covering it in a time span, depending on how much time it takes. Now let's just proceed with our first topic, guys, because we are ready to proceed with our first topic. So guys, the first topic is basically what is HTML. Okay. So the first topic is what is HTML. Okay, what is HTML? Okay, now guys, I know that all of you would know what exactly the full form of HTML is and what exactly the definition should be. Okay, I know all of you might know it, but I definitely guarantee that there are some things you might not know about it, which I would be telling you. Because yes, if you really break down this word, the full form of it, you will be able to figure out a lot of different things about HTML and what it does. Okay, so let's just figure out what is HTML, what is the full form. The full form of HTML is, we'll not define it. We'll not define what HTML is. We'll just break down the full form of HTML and it will be very clear to us what exactly HTML stands for and what it does. So HTML means hyper text markup language. Okay. So when you break down this, it basically breaks down into three sets of things. Hyper text markup language. Okay. Now I've arranged them in a way so that this makes a different sense. This is used for something different and this is used for something totally different. Okay. Yeah. So we'll break down that what hyper means, what text means, and what markup language means. Okay. So let's start with the first one. Yeah. So we'll start with hyper. So what is the meaning of hyper? Okay. So hyper basically means the functionality of navigation. The functionality of navigation between files. That is what the main definition of hyper is. Okay, that is what the main definition of hyper is. And if you really think about it, guys, if you really think about what exactly HTML is doing, you'll be able to understand it. Yes, it's mostly about navigation between files. Why am I saying that HTML is all about navigation between files? Because if you have ever seen on the internet, I move from one page to another, right? I am on a particular page. When I click on a button or a link, I move to another page. Now, definitely, am I switching the files? Yes, I am. Because let's say I am at home.html. Now, if I want to show another file, then definitely I'm moving from one file to another. So HTML is all about, or hyper is all about, the functionality of navigation between files. Because if you actually see, the navigation which we are doing on the internet is all about navigating from one file to any other file, right? Even if you use browser like Google, right? Even if you search something on Google, what are you doing? You're moving from one site to another, right? Let's say you searched for flowers, you get a list of links. Now you click on a link and you move to that particular website. So what are you doing? You are moving from one page, one display screen, or one output, one website to another website. That's why it is known as a functionality of you being able to navigate between one file to another. In this case, in the case of HTML, the files are considered to be of HTML. Got it? Got it what hyper means? Then we'll proceed. Yes, guys, each page is a different file. There are some complex, you can say, things inside it, right? We'll also talk about that, right? So guys, for example, React works a little bit differently. So in React, you don't have different pages. So there the navigation works a little bit differently. But yes, but by default, this is how the scenario is, or this is how HTML was created. So that it talks about, hyper talks about the functionality of navigation between the files. Okay, now, then what is text? Text is just a combination with hyper. So text in its own does not mean anything. Text just means simple text, simple list of or words or whatever you write, right? That's text. But text is more preferred when you combine it with something known as hyper. So when you combine both hyper and text, then they create something known as a hyperlink. Okay. So when you combine hyper and text together, you create something known as a hyperlink in text format. Okay. So guys, hyper just means the functionality. Okay. Hyper just means the functionality of you being able to navigate from one file to another. But now for that functionality to work, you need to also apply it to something, right? You need also to apply it to something so that it can work. So in HTML, that functionality is actually combined with your text. If you really think about it, yes, it is that way. If you go to Google and if you search for flowers, right? What do you see? You see these are links, right? These are links, right? These are links which are making me, or these are hypers which are making me move from one page to another. So I move from this page to this page, right? But if you really think about it, it is just not functionality. It is a combination of functionality and text, because I'm clicking on a text and then I'm getting the functionality of moving from one page to another, right? So that is what exactly hypertext means. Hypertext is a combination of text and when the functionality of navigation is applied to it. Okay, so hyperlink in text format. So the functionality when combined with text is known as a hyperlink. So what you see here are nothing but hyperlinks. Okay, so text which has a functionality, which has a power of you to be able to navigate from one page to another whenever you click on it. And that is combinedly known as hypertext or hyperlink. Okay. And then after knowing hyper and text and what they mean, now what is a markup language, guys? That is the last and most important. So markup language is basically not like a programming language. Markup language is considered to be a little bit more dumb as compared to programming languages, because markup language is something known as a syntax that is used to format a document. Okay. And in this case, we are talking about HTML document. Okay. So basically, markup language is nothing. Markup language basically means that a language which is just capable of defining a structure for a page or a document. In this case, it is a HTML document. Now, what is a structure? What exactly structure we are talking about? So if you really see in a website, what you can do is in a HTML page, you can actually define a structure. What is a structure? You can define that I need a heading here, right? So I'm defining a structure that I need a heading. You can define that I need a paragraph here. You can define that I need an image here. So what are you actually doing? Is this a language? No. Or basically, is this a programming language? No, it's a markup language. Why? Because you can only define a structure for it, that I need here a heading. I need here a paragraph. I need here an image. Nothing else you can do with it. It's just a structuring language. You can define a structure. So if you want to create a heading in HTML, you use something known as a tag. So this is a tag you use for creating a heading. Okay, we'll talk about it more later. If you want to create a paragraph, you use paragraph tag. If you want to create an image, you use image tag. So you can see it's just defining that what you want to create, right? It's just providing a syntax for formatting a document. That's it. That is what exactly markup language means. Got it? Got it, the full form of hypertext markup language. Now it should be very clear what in total HTML is capable of doing and what HTML works as. It should be crystal clear now what hypertext in combination with markup language means. Okay, great. Now guys, one thing which I've seen people confusing with. Okay, let me just clear it as well, and then we can move further. So I told you it is a markup language and not a programming language, but some people confuse it. So let's talk about it a little bit. Okay. So this is something which we need to know, that HTML is not a programming language. Why is that? Why is that we say HTML is not a programming language? So basically, by saying that HTML is not a programming language, we are meaning that HTML is not actually capable of doing some certain features or able to do certain things which makes a language known to be a programming language. Like HTML does not have something known as logic. So HTML, let me just use a red marker for it. So these are the things HTML does not have. Okay. And that is why it is not known to be a programming language. These are the things it does not have. And that's why it is known to or known to be just a markup language and not a programming language. Yeah. So these are the things it does not have. Okay. I'll just mention them and we can talk about them more. Now, the first thing a programming language has and HTML does not have is something known as logic. So you can't write any sort of logic inside HTML. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing, you can't create any statements. Okay, you can't write any statements inside HTML. You can't create something known as conditions inside HTML. What are conditions? Like if-else statements. Like you can say that if this is supposed to happen, if this happens, if it rains today, then I'll do this. If it does not rain today, I'll do that. So you can't create any logic. So yes, if you're creating a condition, it is also a form of logic. But yes, so you are not able to create any sort of conditions. You're not able to write some statements inside those conditions. You're not able to create some logic with it. And most importantly, relations cannot be created. So you can't have relations. And you can say operations. Okay. Or you can't perform operations. So I should just write perform operation. So these are all things which HTML can't do. And that's why it is not a programming language. Okay. These are all things HTML fails in doing. And that's why it is known to be just a markup language and not a programming language. Got it? Yes, guys. Now you might know what all of these mean. You might not know what all of these mean, but you got a basic idea, right? That you can't create statements. You can't create conditions. You can't create relations. You can't create logic inside it, right? Whereas JavaScript is a programming language. The reason being it is all able to do all of this. Basically, it is able to do all of this. See guys, see, okay. You confused yourself in a little thing. Okay, let me just show you. See, the parent-child relationship, which I told you, right? DOM, CS ZOM. I told you that that is done by your browser, right? I told you that is done by your browser. Browser does that. So if browser is doing that, and I told you that browser is built in JavaScript, it runs on JavaScript V8 engine, then it means that the language it uses is JavaScript and not HTML. So yes, it's creating a DOM and a CSOM, and it is using HTML and CSS. But that object model or that tree which it is creating is actually being created with the help of JavaScript and not HTML. Okay, that's the thing. Okay, and that is why you can't say that it is a programming language, because it's not creating that parent-child relationship. Your browser is. Got it? Yes or no? Okay. Now, what else do we have after this? Let's proceed. Now, let's talk about the syntax, guys. Okay, let's talk about our first syntax and let's see it. So basically, whatever you create in HTML, it follows a particular type. Okay, it follows a particular format. If you want to create something inside, you can say HTML, you want to follow a particular format if you want it to be correct. Okay. Okay, let's proceed. So we'll talk about the syntax. Okay, so we are talking about syntax of HTML. What is syntax, guys? What is the full form of syntax? Syntax basically means a way of writing a particular, you can say, or way of writing in a particular language. The language which we are talking about is HTML, markup language. So there is a set of rules which are created to write inside HTML so that you can do certain things. In our terms, to create pages. Now, in HTML, you use something known as tags. Okay. So whatever you want to do, whatever layout syntax you want to create, you will always use something known as tags. So HTML is consisting of nothing but something known as tags and attributes. We'll first talk about tags. What are tags? Those are basically something like this. You have something known as angular brackets. Then you write a tag. So let's say that I want to create a heading, right? So I would specify H1. H1 is a tag which you specify for heading. And I close my bracket. And now guys, you also need to specify something known as a closing tag, which starts with just a hash. So the only difference between a starting and a closing tag is a hash in between. This is known as a start tag. And this is known as a close tag. Okay. Start tag and close tag. Now, why do we require two tags? If you really think about it, it's pretty logical that I am trying to give a heading, right? And a heading will start from a point and it will end at a point. It's not, you can say ever ending, never ending, right? It will start from a point, it will end from a point. So we need to point, or we need to specify a starting and an ending point. That's why we require a start and a close tag. Because we require a starting point that, okay, my heading will start from here and okay, my heading will end here. That's why we require a starting and a closing tag. Now, why am I specifically pointing out this thing? right? Why am I specifically pointing out that there is a starting and a closing tag and this is how it is supposed to happen? This is because you also have some elements or a syntax, which is something like this. This is known as a self-closing tag. Okay, so there are two types of tags you can have in HTML. One of them is this, one of them is this. Okay, the first one is a starting and a closing tag, combination of both, and second one is a self-closing tag. Okay, so self-closing tags actually do not need any data in between. So it does not need any data to be specified in between. So it is just a single tag. On its own, it starts from here and it ends automatically on its own. Now, for example, image tag. Okay, an image tag I should be small, img. Image tag is actually a self-closing tag. Okay, so if you want to specify an image, you can specify the image directly like this without creating a static and a closing. Now we'll talk about it more and how it is done. But yes, this is how you do it. Okay, there are some basic, you can say, uses. Like if you want to create a paragraph, you can use something known as a p tag like this, which starts and closes like this. Okay, so yeah, these are some basic, you can say, tags which you have inside HTML. Okay, now guys, this is all about syntax. Okay, this is how your HTML is supposed to look. It contains tags like this. Yeah, guys, those are also self-closing tags. Absolutely correct. Whatever you are talking about, yes, they are. Now, at the bottom, what else do we have? So now we know how the syntax looks. Now we know how exactly the website or basically the HTML would look like, right? It would have starting, closing tags, or it would have a self-closing tag. Now, let's look into an example, guys. See guys, don't worry. If you are confused in this, we will look into it because there will be some things which will be coming further, which require self-closing tags. Okay. See guys, self-closing tags simply means that they really don't need to have a range. Okay. So whatever you are specifying does not need to have a range. Like heading has a range that it starts from here, ends here. But image does not have a range. Okay. It's just a image, right? It does not have a range that it needs to start from here and end here. That's why we use something known as self-closing tags. Self-closing tags do not have a sort of range. See guys, the HR tags which you're talking about, if you write this, this is not, you can say, wrong, but this is not exactly the way. One thing you need to remember when you're starting or talking about HTML is that HTML is not a programming language, guys. It does not give you errors. That is the biggest thing or the biggest problem. Okay. If you write or if you create a tag like HR like this, now don't worry about what HR tag is, but it is. Now, if you create a HR tag like this, would it give you a problem? No, not exactly, because it is a markup language. But the proper way of doing it is with a slash. If you use a BR tag, will it give you a problem? Not exactly, but this is the proper way of doing it. Okay, that is why you have HR and BR tags with self-closing. Okay, those are self-closing tags, but if you don't include it, it won't give you error. Okay, now the same way, if you create a heading and let's say you started it but you forgot to close it, would it give you error? No, it won't. Why? Because it is a markup language. It does not have a brain of its own. It can't think on its own. It can't predict that it is wrong or not. That's why. Okay, but yes, you'll have to figure it out on your own. You'll have to look into it on your own. You'll have to remember it so that you don't make these fatal mistakes later. Now, let's proceed. Now what we are talking about is something known as a boilerplate. Okay, we'll talk about boilerplate code. Now, what is a boilerplate code, guys? Basically, a boilerplate code. Okay, so what is a boilerplate code? Boilerplate code simply means a code which can be reused again and again. So guys, whenever you create a HTML page, there actually is a set of code which repeats on its own. So whenever you create a fresh HTML page, it's not like you need to create it from scratch. There is actually some code which you can just copy or paste, or you can just reuse it again and again, because that would be your starting point. Like it is a starting point, it is your starting code. From there, you can update on it. That's known as a boilerplate code. Okay. Yeah, it's also known as a template. Okay. So boilerplate code simply means a code which is reused again and again. So every HTML file will actually have that, and therefore you don't need to write it again and again. You can just copy paste it, and you also have shortcuts for it to create it. So when we'll create it, we'll also look into shortcuts. But for now, let's write it on our own, and then we'll explain it as well, right? Then we'll go through each and every line and how it works. Yeah, it's also known as a snippet, code snippet. Absolutely. Now, the first whenever you create a HTML file, let's say we create a index.html file, guys. Okay, so we are creating a HTML file, and this is what the boilerplate code looks like. The first line which you have is something known as doc type. Okay. Now, what is doc type? It's very simple. Whenever you create a HTML file, there are different versions of HTML file that can be present. Okay. Every language has different versions of it. The latest version of HTML is HTML5. Okay. And that's why when you specify this doc type HTML, you're just simply saying that I am using the latest version HTML5. After that, you have something known as HTML. Okay. What is HTML? This is the starting and the closing tag, guys. So whenever you create a HTML5, you need to specify a range. So this is your first tag you create, which is HTML and /HTML. This is what specifies that whatever HTML code you would be writing, whatever tags you would be creating, all of that would be present in this range. This is your range for everything you would write inside HTML or in the form of HTML. That is what it tells you. Whatever you write, whatever code you would write for HTML, it will always exist in these two boundaries. Okay. Now, yep. Now, after that, inside it, you have something known as a head. Guys, we won't jump directly into the practical. There is a reason for it. Okay. Because we want to understand each and every tag first. That's why these tags are important. Although it is a boilerplate code, you can copy and paste it, reuse it again and again, but you need to know what each of these tags means. That's why we are not writing it directly. Okay. Now, after that, you have something known as a head. So at the top, you have something known as a head tag, and we'll give it a little bit more space, right? It is a, you can see starting and a closing tag, and then you have something known as a body tag. Now, if you just think about it in terms of, you can say human, right? Human structure, it will be very clear that a human structure has a head, which acts as a brain, and then you have a body, right? So similarly, you have a head and a body in a HTML. Head contains something known as metadata, guys. So let me just write it down. Head contains something known as metadata. Okay. What is metadata? Metadata means additional information about your website. Okay. It contains additional info of website. So this is just additional info of website, and if you add it, well and good. If you don't add it, not a problem. It's like that. Okay. Now, additional information contains a lot of things. Okay. Here, if you want to import a CSS file, you specify it here. Right. If you want to do something else, you specify it here. So it's not like it's not important, but it's optional. Okay. And the body basically contains all the things that will be displayed to you on the website. So whatever code you write, right? Whatever heading, paragraph, which we talked about, all the tags that are all written inside the body. So body is basically the thing which is visible to you on the website. Okay. So visible section of HTML on the page. Okay. So whatever you write here is the section is the visible section of the HTML page. Okay. Now, inside the head, the first thing which you have is something known as a title. Okay. And even before title should be the last. So let me just write it. Right. And yeah, you can just figure out the title is a metadata. It's an additional information. If you don't write a title, will it be a problem? Not exactly. If you specify it, well and good. If you don't specify it, not a problem. But yes, it's always preferred to have a title. What is the title? Basically, title means the title of your website. What exactly is your website for? Now I said that only the visible part is present here in the body. Then what exactly or where exactly is this title shown? Right. Where exactly do I see this title? This is the title, guys, which you see at the top. This is known as the title, which you see in the tab at the top. Right. This is known as the title of the page. Okay. Yeah. Now, in the title, whatever you want to specify, you can specify. Now, after or before that, basically, you have something known as a meta tag. Okay. What are tags? Meta tags. Basically, meta tags are again for metadata, additional information. So if you want to specify some additional information about your website, you can specify it in a meta tag. And guys, meta tags are self-closing. You can see it starts from here and ends here. Now, there are some things I need to specify in between. That's why I made it this way. Now, what are meta tags used for? Additional information. What is this additional information like? Website description, right? What is this website for? That is a meta tag or metadata. Like this is a metadata, guys. Whenever you see a website like this is a metadata about it. Like it is used for flowers and so and so. This is what metadata is. Some additional information. This is just additional information about the website, description of the website. So if you want to add a description of the website, you can use one form of metadata. There are multiple types of metadata. If you want to use or if you want to create a description for your website, which I showed you earlier, you create something like this. You say metadata, the name. So what type it is? So the type of it is description. So you say description. Now don't worry about what name equals to is. Just skip it for now. Okay. But yeah, this is how you say it. You say description and then content. Now this content actually contains whatever you want to say. So whatever I showed you here, this is your content. Whatever you want to write inside it. So content ke andar whatever it is, whatever you want to say, that is your content. So this is your description meta tag. Okay. A tag which specifies additional details about your website. And in this case, that detail is the description of the website. There are more things you can specify, but for now, we are specifying just the description. And if you want to basically linking also happens here. If you want to link any file, or that also happens here. So you can use something like this. So you have a link tag, you have a relation, which is equals to style sheet. Don't worry about it. We'll study about it in detail later when we study about style sheet. And it is also a self-closing tag. And inside it, what do you have? You have your href. So basically, you can also link your CSS file like this. So this is how you link your CSS file. Okay, so yeah. Yeah, so this is how you use it. Okay, this is how you create it. And this is your boilerplate code. Now we know each and every line and what it means. So yes, it should be very simple for you to use it. Now, I'll show you a very basic example, right? So how to basically use this boilerplate code, I'll show it that to you. And then we will end our class for today. Okay, let's see. So what I'll do is I will use an online code editor, guys. We will use an online code editor. I'm using Code Sandbox. You can see. The reason I'm using an online code editor is this is just tutorial classes. That's the reason. Because these are just some tutorial classes. We are teaching you some functions, some new features, right? When we'll be working on proper projects, we'll be using VS Code for it. But for now, I'm just teaching you some topics. That's why we'll be using online code editor. And one of the best reasons is that it is public. So anyone can access it. So even you, I can share this link to you and you will be able to see the code as well. That's why. Now in the Code Sandbox, just search for it. So you can say code Sandbox, right? Hit enter and you will see codesandbox.io. If you don't have account, create account, and after creating an account, you will enter here. Now what we want to do is we want to create a static page. And yes, it is a static page. If you remember, we are not doing anything else. We are just creating HTML and CSS. So it will be a static page. So what you need to do is you just need to click new sandbox because I want to create a new template. And what I want is a static. So I can definitely click on this and I'll get a HTML page, or I can say static. I can search here and I can get this. Click on it and it will create, you can see a static, you can see project for me. It is a static project. And inside it, you can see on the right side, I'm seeing my website, and on the left, I can see my index.html file. Now guys, when you work with Code Sandbox, you also have some additional files which you don't need to worry about. Like you have package.json. This is a file which is required by Code Sandbox to run this project. So you don't need it when you create your own project. This is just a file required by Code Sandbox. Similarly, sandbox.configs.json is a file required by Code Sandbox. So you can skip it. You don't need to worry about it. Now, in the index.html, you can see this is basically the section which is showing you your file. So I'll close it. Now I am in index.html, and you can see this is the code, guys. And you can see this is a boilerplate code. So whenever I created a template, even though I created a new, you can say project, I got this default boilerplate code. Now I'll skip this. I won't basically show anything in the browser, but yes, you can see it is empty. But yes, you can see this is my boilerplate code which I'm able to see. Now, if I want to show you a shortcut, there is a shortcut which is available if you want to create it. Let's say you have this empty page. How to create that code? Just write exclamation and hit tab. What you show? I wrote this and then I waited. When I got these two options, then it shows me emit abbreviation. So basically, this is a shortcut. If you click on it, it will give you this whole code automatically. Okay, click on it and you can see it generated the whole code for me. And that's why we don't need to actually worry about it. It's a boilerplate code. It's an automatic code which you can use and build on it, right? And guys, one of the amazing things, if you build a project here, you can share this link with anyone. So I can open it in a new tab. This is my project link. I can open it in a new tab, and this is my website, guys. At the top, it shows document, right? You can see the title of my page is document. So it shows document at the top. I can change it. I can say my first HTML page. I can say this, save it, and I can go here and refresh the page. And now it says my first HTML page. So it also updates when you do any update. Now, so guys, there will be an extension. So if it is removed, then there will be an extension. You can figure it out. Okay. I think there will be an extension for it, which you can install, right? And then you can use it. Now, after having this boilerplate, you can definitely see there are two additional meta tags. You don't need to worry about them. Just skip them for now. We'll talk about them later. But yes, we'll talk about them definitely. But for now, you can skip them. Now, you can see I have a title and I have a body. In the body, let's talk about the two tags which we know till now. So we have a H1 tag, which we know, which creates a heading. I can say hello, and the time I save, I can see this is my heading. I want to create a paragraph. I use a P tag, which is a closing tag, right? Starting in a closing tag. And I can say this is a paragraph. So I can say this, save it, and I'll see this is a paragraph. Now guys, either I can say this or I can also generate a random paragraph with the help of a shortcut. Okay, there is a shortcut for doing that. No guys, it is not preferred to code with me. Okay, I would not prefer you to code with me. I would prefer you to just listen to me at whatever I'm teaching at that point of time. You can code with it later. Or when I'm building a project, then it is fine. When I'm building a project, then you can code with me, because I would first explain everything and then we'll proceed. But for now, when I'm teaching a topic, I would prefer that you listen to whatever I'm saying. And yes, it's lorem, guys. So you can say a shortcut lorem, and you can see I got you can see option. So if I hit enter, I got you can see dummy paragraph. I got a dummy paragraph automatically generated for me. Okay, so I can use this shortcut lorem and it will generate. Guys, we see a title. This is the title at the top. I told you that whatever you write in head is not displayed in the page. It is a title, so it is being displayed at the top. This is your title, guys, at the top. My first HTML page. Okay, remember that. Whatever you write in the body gets displayed in the page. And title is not in the body. Title is in the head. Remember that. Now, you can see I got the paragraph and that. Okay, yep. Now guys, H1 actually is just one form of heading. There are 6 different headings you can have. H1 is just one of that. Okay, so you can use different headings and they are all in a sequence. So you have H1 to H6. I can say H2 and this is a H2 heading and it should be with a slash, guys. My bad. Similarly, you can create another one. I can just replicate it 6 times and then I can say this will be let me just write it down. This one will be not H2, but H3, H4, H5, and H6. Now, don't worry about the shortcuts that how was I able to edit it 2 times. I'll tell you that. But yes. Yes. So number 1 equals to 6. So these are 6 headings. And if I just write hello in it, it will be very clear what they do. H1 is the largest heading and H6 is the smallest heading, guys. I don't even know why they created so many because H6 does not even look like a heading. You can see H6 is so small, but it is still, you can say, known to be a heading. I don't know why. But yes, there are 6 different headings or sizes you can use. And then you have a paragraph. Okay. So yeah, now you know the basic use of or the basic boilerplate of HTML. Now you know how tags are used. Now you know what each and every single tag of these does. And yes, now we know the very basics of HTML. Yes. So yeah, guys, now we know the very basics of our, now we know the fundamentals. We have completed with the fundamentals. We know how it works, right? How the browser works, how our website works. And now we also know the very basics of HTML. So yeah, guys, we are actually done for all the today's topics. And we have also covered some additional ones. Okay. So yes, we know both of these, we have covered both of them. And yes, guys, we will be ending here, guys. Now, guys, I know I skipped 2 meta tags. I know that, but we'll talk about them tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Okay. The next class would be day after tomorrow, guys. I think you remember it because we will be having 3 classes in a week. I told you that. And yeah, that is it for today, guys. Thank you, everyone, and have a nice day. I'll definitely upload this white, you can say whatever we wrote here, right? So I've created it in a sequence manner so that it will be easier for you to read through it, right? And I'll also share it. I'll upload it to the docs file, to the, you can say, drive, right? I'll do it as soon as possible. And I'll also upload the video as soon as possible. Okay. So yeah, I'll do it. And yeah, guys. Now, guys, some things which I want to, you can say, clarify. Okay. There are some doubts, right? So regarding the platform and stuff. So I'll just clarify that. Right. Yes. So guys, the first thing we will be basically starting to use platform, right? So now till the point you were getting all the, you can say, messages on WhatsApp, but later you won't be getting that way. You will be getting it on the system, the platform which we are talking about. Now, I made you enter your details in an Excel sheet and we sent you emails. Now I know that a lot of you did not get the emails, but please recheck your, you can say, if you entered the details in the Excel sheet and if you entered it before the message I sent you, please recheck your spam folders and your mails if you received the password reset option on. Okay. If you received it, please reset it. And I've already shared the platform link and you can access it. I even shared So the class which I'm taking today, right, it was actually created on that, you can say, platform. So actually you should have got a message if you're already registered on the platform. Okay. Yeah, it is totally empty. I know it. But if you now go to the sections, you will see that there is day 1, day 2, and day 3 already added in the first week. Okay. In the first week, I've already added day 1, day 2, day 3. I just recently added it. And yeah, in the day 3, you would also find today's meeting link because I created it there. Right. So yes, now after every single one of you has been onboarded to the platform, we will shift to that. Okay. So every YouTube video will be uploaded there. You will find it there. Right. So every single video you'll find it there. The DSA also you'll find there. It will be a centralized place so that you can have every single thing at a single place. Okay. That's why it is. Yeah, guys, I know that in the first 2 videos, there is nothing but just description. I know that. In the third video, if you check, you would find the Zoom link. Because for the third video for today, from today only, we started using the system, right? The platform. That's why. And guys, don't worry. Don't panic if you did not receive the mail. Okay. You won't directly jump into the platform. Okay. If you did not receive the mail, we'll still go through the usual process of WhatsApp until and unless we have all of you onboarded to the platform. So don't worry about that if that is the case. Now, another thing, if you got the mail, but you did not see the mail in 1 or 2 hours, there is a possibility that your token got expired. Okay, there is a possibility. If you got the mail, but you reset it and it says token is expired, that's not a problem, guys. What you need to do is pretty simple. Your accounts are already created. It's just that you have not resetted the password. So go to the platform, click on sign in and go to forgot password. You have already have the account. So enter your email ID and click on reset password. It will send you another link and you can regenerate your password or you can say create your own password on your own. Okay. And then you can proceed with the platform. Yeah. Just click on the forgot password, create a new password, and then you can use it. If you did not get the, you can say link, right? If you did not get the link, please go to the Excel sheet and mark there no in the 4th column that you did not receive it. If you did receive it, then also mark yes in the column so that I can know how many people received it, how many people I need to resend that link for. Okay. So do that as soon as possible. And yes, you will receive all the links there. Guys, Excel sheet has been shared. So if there are some people who have recently joined, not an issue, I'll reshare it. Okay. I saw that there are people who have recently joined. I will share the Excel sheet again. And yes, guys, that is an Excel sheet where you need to upload it on your own. So your information is to be added by you. Okay. That's something which you need to know. Now, just give me a sec. And I would reshare it. Yeah, guys, anywhere here who did not get the link, guys, anywhere here who is not in the official group? Yes, guys, anyone here who does not, is not on the official, you can say WhatsApp group. The WhatsApp group which I'm talking about is named as FSWDT Intern 10722. Full Stack Web Developer Training Intern 10722. If someone is not here or if someone is not on the platform, right, I'm not, okay, fine. So I'm sharing a contact, guys. This is only for the people who have not got it. I'm sharing your contact, right? Please contact the person and you can basically tell him the problem that I'm not in the official group or in the official WhatsApp group, and he'll help you out with that. Okay. So if you are in the unofficial group, right? If you are in the unofficial group, you all must be in the unofficial group, right? You all must be present in the unofficial group. the people who are present in the unofficial group, but not in the official group. Yep. So what you need to do, I'll share you can say a contact, and please contact him and he'll help you out. So just give me a sec. I'm sharing it. Yep. Yeah, guys. So this is the contact details. You can contact him and he will help you out in whatsoever problem you are facing. Okay. Okay, I've shared the, you can say shared the number. Please note it down, whosoever requires it, right? And you can contact him, and whatsoever problem you're facing, he will try to resolve regarding the same. Guys, we have started with the doubt session, guys. I'm taking your doubts only, right? So yes, we have a doubt session going on at this point of time. So if you have any additional doubts, you can ask. We won't have any additional or extra doubt session, guys. We just have it simultaneously or basically after the class. Yeah, guys, it will contain the C++ concepts and everything. So you can start studying from that. Whosoever has the access of the platform, you would find the DSA inside it. No, guys, you won't get live classes for it. It was already mentioned that it is going to be recorded sessions. DSA is going to be recorded and it is going to be in C++. Okay, not in Java, guys. Yeah, guys, if you do not have any problem, if you do not have any doubts, you can leave, guys. Okay, if they are logged, not an issue, guys. They will be shared with you. Okay. I told you that the DSA will start from the second week, right? So if they are logged, not an issue. The details will be shared with you and you would receive the DSA and the you can say 5 questions a day. Everything will be shared with you time to time. Okay. After the first week. Guys, I told you, if it says that the token is expired, go to the platform link, go to sign in, go to forgot password and write your email. It will send you another link and then reset your password and sign in. Guys, the competitive programming is the part of it. Every single day or every week, you get 5 questions for competitive programming. Okay. So that will also be shared from the second week. Guys, Next.js is something, basically, it is an advanced feature on top of React. So when you learn React, after that, you can learn something known as Next.js on top of it. Okay. It is just, you can say, advanced version of React, which has a little bit additional advanced features as compared to React. And yes, it is way more powerful than React. But again, you'll need to know the basics of React first for it. Guys, you don't need a specific platform on it or platform for it. You can do it wheresoever you want because everything would be provided to you. The question, right? The problem statement, what you need to put in the input, output, whatever it is, all of that will be provided. See, guys, if some people are able to see the C++ videos, right? They are all already logged, right? Okay. It's not like they are open. Even if they are able to see it, they will be logged. So they won't be able to access it. I told you it will start from the second week. That's why they're logged. Guys, the regular classes will be conducted shortly. There is no specific time I can tell you at this point of time. But yeah, it is tentative to be 28. So after 28, we might have regular classes. No, guys, Node.js and React.js are not a programming language. We already talked about it. Node.js is a framework and React is a library, guys. And yeah, guys, that is it for today. Guys, I'm not sure about the stack they are using, right? I'm not one of the developers for the DevStowns website. I joined way later than that. Yeah, so it has been up for approximately 3-4 years. So that's why I don't have any idea about it. So what exactly stack is? I can figure it out and let you know that what exactly tech stack they are using. But yeah, guys, don't worry. We'll be covering that. Okay, so GitHub, LinkedIn, you can say portfolio creation, right? Everything will be covered, but that is at the end, right? At the ending of the session or the course. And yeah, guys, that is it for today, guys. Thank you, everyone, and have a nice day. We will meet day after tomorrow and we'll continue with the rest of it, guys. Till then, bye bye and take care. Bye, everyone. Have a nice day and enjoy the 1 day gap in between. And good night, guys. Bye, everyone. Thank you for attending.